too many people.
In a world of mostly unattractive men and one woman, comes a stranger so beautiful that they call him Pretty Face. Terence Hill is Cat Stevens in the 1967 spaghetti western God Forgives... I don't! Exclamation point. Cat Stevens. Part gambler, part gunfighter, part knife thrower, part actual cat. His only true friend is the fur-wearing insurance agent investigator Hutch Bessie. Now, for those of you not familiar with the term spaghetti western, it's simply a western that was made in Italy by Italian filmmakers, usually filmed right there in Italy or a lot of times in Spain. Now, these movies started coming out in the 1960s and gained popularity and were made all the way up into the 1970s. They were known for their gritty style of filmmaking and noticeable overdubbing and on-screen violence that you would never find in your standard American Hollywood film. Now, when spaghetti westerns come to mind, usually the one that comes right to the top of the list is Sergio Leone's classic, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and deservedly so, too. It was the third movie in what would later be named his Dollars trilogy, that followed the exploits of Clint Eastwood's Man with No Name character, a bounty hunter of few words trying to make his way in the West. The first of this trilogy was the film A Fistful of Dollars. Now, A Fistful of Dollars created the spaghetti western genre, and with its success, Sergio Leone was able to make the sequel for a few dollars more. Then the third and final film of the trilogy, the epic The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Until the Italians started dabbling in westerns, all we had were the American Hollywood standard films we would always get, like the John Wayne movies, where everything was far more clean-cut and far less brutal than the reality of the actual Wild West. It had a certain realism that the American Western just didn't have. It was all dirty and filthy and slimy looking. Then there was all the brutal violence that the Italians were not afraid to exploit, which again was a huge change from your standard Western. So this new style was a hit, and then all the Italian filmmakers started jumping on the spaghetti Western bandwagon and churning out their own gritty Westerns. But there are far more spaghetti Westerns out there than just the Dollars trilogy that deserve to be recognized as well, I believe. And some of them are also trilogies as well, like the movie I'm going to talk about today, 1967's God Forgives, I Don't. So let me tell you about God Forgives, I Don't, and see if you agree. And away we go. It wastes no time by throwing you directly into the title. Boom! With this powerful epic score that I just love. This music is just awesome. It's so epic, and then it just drops right into this jauntier little tune before picking right back up again. I just love it. A good spaghetti western always has a memorable score with an awesome chorus of screaming, singing voices. So do the opening titles and the score play over what's supposed to be the American West, but is actually Almeria, Spain, as a train comes chugging down the tracks. So in the first shot, as the train is rolling into the station, we see this kid's rubber ball bounce onto the tracks. Even though toys like this did not exist in the Old West yet. I mean, this wouldn't exist for a few more decades, I think. It's just a minor flaw. Big deal. Thought I'd point it out. As the townfolk welcome the train's arrival with a band. So the train pulls in, well, crashes in. Only there's not much to celebrate when it's discovered that literally everyone on board the train has been murdered. Well, except one. This John Wilkes Booth looking guy, wounded badly and probably presumed dead. He sneaks out the back before being discovered and makes a limping run for it. So then we cut right to an interior shot of what looks like some guy's barn turned into a saloon, where its only customers are all gathered at this one table in a heated card game. And enter our lead character, played by the beautiful Italian actor Terence Hill.
I'd better remember it.
So when one of the players tries to bet his dirty old pipe when he runs out of money, Terence Hill's character doesn't approve.
You want to watch yourself. There's good money on my pipe, boy.
This turns all of them against him, and their apparent leader pulls a gun on him. So Terence Hill can see they don't want to play no more.
Oh yeah? I can see you don't want to play anymore.
He produces a throwing knife from his collar and pins the dude's gun right to the table. It spins around and everything. He's good and all, but there's a lot more of them, so they literally turn the table on him, and a bar fight ensues. He kicks all their asses too, using his cat-like moves, thus the character's name. Yeah, Terence Hill is just the actor. Well, actually, Terence Hill is his stage name. The actor's real name is an Italian name, Mario Girardi. However, in this film, his character's name is Cat Stevens. And yes, like I said before, there is a singer-songwriter named Cat Stevens who goes by the same name. And I've looked into it, and it's just like a strange coincidence, apparently. This movie came out the same year that Cat Stevens and his girlfriend at the time supposedly came up with his stage name of Cat Stevens. So Cat Stevens collects his winnings and gives the bartender and owner of this dump his best before awesomely riding off into the morning sun to that cool-ass music again. So that morning, at the same dumpy saloon, this burly guy draped in fur shows up looking for Cat Stevens and gets the story about last night's events from the bumbling bartender. So this character here is Hutch Bessie. He's an agent working for the insurance company that insured the $100,000 of gold that was on the train that was robbed. The one from the beginning of the movie where everyone was killed. This gold was part of a payroll that was being transferred from one bank to another. As he carefully explains all of this to Cat Stevens once he tracks him down.
And 1,000 more. You old fool.
Yeah, you see, that lone survivor guy, the John Wilkes Booth looking guy, managed to make it to Hutch Bessie and tell him the details of what happened and who robbed the train. So Hutch goes on for a bit explaining how the robbers pulled it off and how clever all this really was. Now, when I look at this character, Hutch Bessie, I don't imagine him working for an insurance company. But then again, I started thinking it is the Old West, and being an insurance agent back then was probably a far more dangerous job. So this is when Hutch brings up the name Bill San Antonio.
Bill. Our fancy friend Bill San Antonio.
Our main antagonist of the film. Now, according to Hutch, that lone survivor, right before he was dying, of course, told him that it was Bill San Antonio who robbed the train with a gang of cronies. However, this is a little hard for both of them to believe because supposedly Bill San Antonio was killed a year ago.
That's why you said you recently started believing in ghosts.
Yet Hutch is still convinced that he's the only one smart enough to pull off a job like this, since it's very similar to other jobs he's done in the past, and that somehow Bill San Antonio faked his death and is still alive.
Let me explain. 2 days before the train moved out, the bandits did in fact show up around this area. They had themselves a nice little gallop around the rails so as to leave their hoof prints. Then they headed north.
Hutch has even figured out where Bill San Antonio has probably been hiding out all this time.
Because the bandits are all sitting real pretty right here, 250 miles to the south. As far as I know, there's only one man smart enough to organize and pull a big raid like this. And that's Bill San Antonio. His damn name's written all over it.
However, Cat Stevens is still skeptical on the whole thing, and we find out why in a flashback that he has that night.
Since when have dead men started going around robbing trains?
I ain't saying I know how things went with you two a year ago, Cat. But one thing's sure, Bill's alive.
So flashback to 10 months to a year ago. Yes, this movie uses flashbacks more than once to tell the story. So pay attention. In this flashback, we're introduced to Bill San Antonio. On the night that he supposedly died, he's hanging out with his gang in a dumpy shack that they've turned into a hideout. Cat Stevens is there and he's playing cards with Bill. So it's hard to tell whether he's a member of the gang or just hanging out. I take Cat Stevens as more of a loner, so he's seemingly just an old acquaintance of Bill's, even though they seemingly hate each other. Then we meet Rose, the only female character in the film with any dialogue, who plays the hooker that the gang pays to pass around and punch around.
Bad you're a friend. Why wouldn't he show his pretty face till now?
Because he wasn't around earlier, sweetheart. He just arrived today.
Ah.
Yeah, these characters in this entire movie have no regard for human life at all. Towards anyone. Themselves, men, women, no one.
No way to treat a lady. Get her! Shut up!
It's a dark and gritty West where life has absolutely no value. Every scumbag for themselves. Where all the heroes are anti-heroes, like Cat Stevens and Hutch Bessie. So it's here where Rose is actually the first one to mention that Cat has a pretty face. A nickname that Bill San Antonio adopts immediately.
I don't want anybody laughing behind my friend's back because we've been friends ever since we were yay high, right, old pretty face? No relax!
Seriously, he calls him Pretty Face through this entire movie. A lot. It becomes his nickname to the point where I'm convinced that Bill San Antonio is secretly in love with Cat Stevens.
500.
And can you blame him? I've said it before and I'll say it again. Terence Hill is the most beautiful man ever put to film. There, I said it again. Even with the bad overdubbing, it definitely helps make him into a more snarling and dark character.
In this game, you're what you always were. A beginner.
For an actor who went on to do 90% slapstick and wacky comedies in his career. It's hard to believe that by 1980 he'd be starring in the movie Superstore. So back to the card game where Bill is getting frustrated because Cat keeps winning and he's convinced that he's cheating. Cat gets annoyed and gives Bill a nice little slap, which of course was a mistake when you're dealing with an ego like Bill San Antonio.
Now, everybody just take it easy.
And this is where he goes off on one of his many speeches throughout the film. He loves to talk, this guy, like a lot of villains. And in my opinion, this actor, Frank Wolff, who plays Bill San Antonio, does a great friggin' job, too. It's one of my favorite parts of this movie is this guy's performance as Bill. His overdubbing doesn't look so bad. It matches up a lot better than Cat Stevens. I think it's his actual voice, because he's actually an American actor, but I'm not 100%. It does, I'm pretty sure, though.
You know, they tell me that, the last few years you got pretty quick on the draw. If you're as quick with a gun as you are with the cards, well then I've got to think twice as hard.
So Bill goes on to accuse Cat of cheating, like I said, and is clearly trying to push him into this duel to the death, which he does. And like his future train robbery that hasn't happened yet, flashback remember, it's all very well planned.
Think about, there's the key, huh? What would you do, poor thing, if I was to go get myself killed? What would you do?
So Bill sets up this whole showdown between him and Cat very carefully, so that they have to shoot it out completely alone inside this shack, while the rest of them, the whole gang, including Bill's #1 idiot henchman guy, Bud, all go outside, lock them in, and set fire to the shack.
Now hurry up, Bud. You go outside too. And as soon as you get out there, set fire to the shack.
Ensuring that the loser definitely dies, I guess. And before this, he also makes Cat put some money down to help pay for the funeral in the event of his death.
Good for you.
Good for you. So you really think you're going to pull through, huh, old pretty face?
And Bill then instructs the rest of his gang to let Cat walk out free, don't kill him, if he should win. Cat and Bill pace around the shack, ready to shoot it out, when Bill goes on about how if he loses, that his band of idiots will still try to avenge his death, and there's an awful lot of them.
You won't get away with it, pretty face. My man. Make you pay. And there's an awful lot of them. Whenever you're ready, pretty face.
Bill loves to run his mouth, even when he's about to get killed. Or is he? So as you may have guessed, Cat wins the shootout. And seemingly guns down Bill San Anto, and the gang lets him ride away just like Bill ordered, and the shack burns in the distance, and now dead Bill burns along with it supposedly. Thus why everyone thinks this guy is dead and not alive, still robbing trains. We then get a montage of Cat evading assassination attempts from members of Bill's gang. And again, life, like the people, have no values. Punching a woman out cold and everything. So Cat snaps out of his flashback, and we're back in the present. So with all this new information about Bill San Antonio still being alive, and Hutch knowing where he's been hiding out all this time, Cat decides to sneak off and deal with it on his own, his way. So to slow down Hutch, he steals his horse to make him walk on foot to his very own little theme song, while he alone tracks down Bill San Antonio. Cat heads off with his theme and tracks down Rose the hooker from the flashback, and we found out more about all this Bill San Antonio still being alive shit, and murdering everyone on the train. Why did he have to murder? Oh, so they wouldn't know it was him. This leads into another flashback, flashback number 2 now, as Rose explains the details to Cat about what happened after Bill supposedly died and he took off. Turns out they gave him his big extravagant funeral that he wanted, with a big band playing and all.
Well, Bill San Antonio's orders got carried out. He was given a funeral. Here, believe me, it was a first-class funeral.
Hey, that henchman Tom Tom who tried to kill Cat is back. This is before that. See, flashbacks, man. They throw you off. I told you you had to pay attention. After the funeral, they went to split the loot from their last job, meaning that they could split Bill's share too, now that he was dead. But, uh-oh.
Tom Tom had told me he'd be getting enough out of it to bury the past and start a brand new life together with me. But when they reached the cave, they were in for a nasty surprise.
When they get there, the loot is gone. Henchman Bill accuses Cat of this, thus the main reason behind all those failed assassination attempts on his life.
Only one man could have done it, and I know who he is. Yeah, we made a mistake last night letting him go.
Once Bud convinced everyone that Cat stole the loot, they all went after him. Even Tom Tom, like we saw earlier. As Rose explains, because apparently she was in love with this Tom Tom guy.
He was a handsome man, Tom Tom. Generous man, too.
He's going to use his half of the money to go settle down and have a normal life with Rose. So it's sort of kind of sad. He got pissed, thought Cat stole all the money, went after him, ended up getting killed by Cat Stevens. Yet there she sits with the man who killed him, in self-defense, of course. Cat then recalls it was Bud who gave him the gun he used to shoot Bill San Antonio.
Bud was the one who gave me the gun.
Give him a gun, Bud.
So to further investigate, Cat pays a visit to a bickering old guy, the one who prepared Bill's corpse for the funeral. This way he can verify if it was really Bill San Antonio or not. Which naturally this guy can't do since the body was so badly burned beyond all fucking recognition.
There wasn't really much left of him, to tell the truth.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, it were no pretty sight. Looked like he'd already been to his natural destination. Yeah, to hell, and back again.
So the suspicion that Bill San Antonio is still alive is starting to look more and more of a reality.
If I wasn't sure that you were the very man who killed him, I'd be ready to swear that Bill San Antonio were still alive.
I swear to God, Grandpa. He's gonna be mighty sorry he isn't dead.
Which actually is verified only seconds later. When we cut to an unarmed farmer who was executed simply for having looked up to see.
You shouldn't have looked up. Curiosity's a bad habit.
That's still living and breathing. Yep, Bill San Antonio. Still alive after all. Now we know for sure. So cut back to Kat, who's now made it to the town where Hutch believes Bill San Antonio and his gang's been hiding out, meaning that their hideout's not too far off. So he quietly stalks his town from a distance for a bit. In the town saloon, we see that Bud and his fellow cronies are having a swell time pushing around the locals, who apparently got fed up at one point, sent for some lawman who Bud killed before he reached the town, and is now taunting the frightened townspeople with the lawman's corpse. As this is going down, Cat Stevens starts to live up to his name even more when he uses cat-like acrobats to sneak into the saloon and witness this shit. Oh, they're having a good old time, murdering the locals in cold blood just to strike the fear of them into them.
Stop it! You can't do this!
It's real fortunate we were around to help them respect the law.
So Bud and company finally leave the saloon and ride off. Cat follows closely behind. And so do we, for the whole damn trip. I mean, they really established the shit out of this landscape. It's basically the journey to Bill San Antonio's hideout. All played to that epic theme again. That's the one great part of it. So we reach Bill's hideout, and like most of the exterior establishing shots in this movie, it's another bleak looking dump. Cave-like ancient ruins that they're using as a hideout. In the distance we can see Hutch stalking the hideout from behind a rock. He's already found the place and now turns around and heads back to the town. So inside Bill's hideout we see Bill teach Bud a lesson about what an imbecile he is and how his stupidity is probably going to ruin everything for him.
You're an imbecile, Bud. This you've got to realize.
Imbecile! 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 Have you finally learned your lesson? Imbecile! Imbecile!
So why keep this idiot around, I wonder? But he does, you know.
I haven't seen a bed in 2 days.
So back in town, Hutch, needless and breast, gets a room. A local crony, who's apparently an informant for Bud, witnesses this stranger's arrival. So Hutch gets his room. Cat then arrives at Bill's hideout and sets up camp to stake the place out. He watches from a distance as Bill and most of his gang ride away. Then Cat infiltrates the hideout, slowly. To like this Zelda type guitar solo that you would hear in a Zelda game. It's kind of nice actually. Too bad it's being played by some scumbag criminal who will probably just murder you in cold blood. Once again, displaying his cat-like reflexes, he easily gets inside, only to get snagged in a booby trap that lassos his feet and dangles him helplessly from the ceiling. Whee! Yeah, that was like fun. He's been caught. It was a good run, Cat. Let's see if that whole 9 lives thing is true now, huh? He does put up a good fight though for a guy hanging upside down versus 3 armed men safely footed on the ground. Just as they're about to smash his head in though, it's Hutch to the rescue. busts in, guns a-blazing, and kills the cronies and frees Cat. Boom! Ouch, too. Could have told him you were gonna shoot him down, but... So then the two shoot their way into a locked room at Bill's hideout to discover a chest that contains the gold from the robbery! We found it! Good. Now what? Meanwhile, Bud and company reach the saloon.
Ah, forget it, Bud.
I'm thirsty.
While Cat and Hutch decide how they're gonna move this heavy-ass chest of gold. So, using the rope, they raise it into the air, and Cat comes up with this plan to just have Hutch carry it on his back, of course. You know, because Hutch can carry it on his back since he's such a big, burly bastard and just some freak of human nature to him, I guess. Back in town, Bud gets wind of Hutch's arrival and is told that he's resting in his room. Bud, not being a rational thinker, just busts right into Hutch's room ready to kill, only to discover he's not even there. Ha ha! See? Bud is an imbecile. Realizing they've been tricked, they race back to Bill's hideout, where at the moment, Hutch can't take the weight of the chest of gold and wants to quit, as Cat taunts and teases him so he won't. And I swear, this guy dubbing his voice is getting more southern as the movie goes on.
Oh, take it off! Bill laugh. He'll die laughing when he sees you deal as a doornail into his gold.
Like this Southern American accent. That's just totally odd and weird. It's like a rat talking. Hutch manages to do it though, and they load the chest of gold into a wagon and ride it right out of Bill's hideout. So now they're on the run with a chest of gold. And Cat comes up with the idea to just bury the gold somewhere so they're not lugging it all around. Because obviously, Bill San Anto and Bud's gang are going to be coming after him as soon as they find out all this shit's gone. It would be a hell of a lot easier for them to get some distance too. And now they have something to bargain with at least. They do get caught. So it's about damn that Bud and his boys discover all the other dead cronies at the hideout and also discover that gold is gone. Oh shit, not good. They immediately go after them, of course. So back at the site of some other ancient looking ruin, Cat and Hutch finish burying the chest of gold. We also then see Cat hide and cover up his throwing knife not far from the chest. Ah! Something that might come into play later, methinks? So anyway, Bud's on the hunt for Hutch at this point. And then Hutch and Cat have to find a way to cross a river. And this is where we find out that Cat is afraid of water and can't swim.
Well, I reckon swimming's the only way to avoid going over that.
You leave me here, I'll kid you.
I forgot you can't swim. Well, that's your funeral.
Yeah, they're really riding out this whole he's a cat thing, okay? As long as he doesn't start puking up fur balls, I'm fine with that. So once they escape the river, or pond as Cat calls it, the two argue about what to do next. Hutch, working for the insurance company, wants Cat to go to the insurance company with him so they can return the gold and collect that simple reward. Cat's more concerned about getting revenge on Bill San Antonio, getting his money back from the poker game he started last year. That's all he really seems to care about.
Calm down.
So a violent fistfight ensues. Cat even jumps on Hutch's face. Ouch, it actually looks like it hurts. But when it comes to clobbering time, nobody does it better in the movies than Bud Spencer. As he delivers the first what would become his famous fist to the head bonk. They punch so powerful, that's all it takes to knock you up. And it works. One punch and Cat's down. All his cat-like moves were useless against the brute force of Bud Spencer. So yeah, the actor who plays Hutch, Bud Spencer, would use this move, this fist bonk, in like every single movie after this. In most of those films, he was paired again with Terence Hill. So it's at that point that Bud and his gang of dupes actually successfully track down and capture Cat and Hutch and bring them back to Bill's hideout. So back at the hideout, they're all reunited with the still living Bill San Antonio, where he gets to happily run his mouth again, being all cocky and arrogant.
Yes. Whoever would have thought we'd all be together again after all these years?
That's great acting, Frank Wolff. You were underappreciated in your time. He does put on a good show, this guy. Here, Bill rants about why he faked his death, how he wanted to get the local law off his ass, and how he was tired of the gang he was with at the time. Except for Bud, of course. He wanted to keep this one idiot around to be his whipping boy. and he needed him to help enact his plan by giving Cat a gun filled with blanks so he could fake his death. So Bill finally gets to the whereabouts of the gold and knows he's just gonna have to torture the two of them to get one of them to talk, which is pretty much nothing but fun for a guy like Bill San Antonio. I keep saying that name wrong. Bill San Antonio. Bill San Antonio. So using Cat's fear of water, he drops him right down a well to fuck with him. Even through all this, he's still calling him Pretty Face.
Just raise up your arm when you're ready to talk, pretty face.
But even through all this, Cat won't talk. So as for Hutch, Bill gives a particular crony the job of torturing him with a hot poker. Locking him in a room with orders not to let anyone else in.
No one is to come in here for any reason till I come back. Shoot anyone who disobeys, you understand?
Bill is then forced to leave suddenly for some reason and orders Bud to keep torturing Cat. He even goes to the extent of putting a guard on Bud, just to make sure he doesn't do anything stupid. So after Bill leaves, Cat makes an offer to Bud that as long as he keeps it to himself, he'll take him to the gold and it'll be all his. And naturally, being an idiot, Bud accepts this offer.
Don't tell anyone else and I'll take you there.
And leaves the hideout with Cat, who he ties up and death marches to the spot where the gold is buried. So Bud unties him so he can dig up the loot, but that's right. Remember the throwing knife from before, the one he hid? Yep, he uses it to kill Bud.
Did anyone ever tell you that you're a dumb bastard, Bud?
I was just expecting him to say something even stupider, like, you know what you are, Bud? You're a big stupid head, Bud. That voice, I can't get over that voice. So southerny, so backwoods southerny. So when Bill returns to the hideout to find that Bud and Cat are gone, he's pissed, of course, and kills a random guard for falling asleep who was supposed to be watching him, because the other one got his throat slit.
Yes.
So after that, Bill jumps on his horse and goes after him.
What about us? What are we supposed to do?
Try not to fall asleep.
Cat then shows up in town at the saloon and has a little fun with Bud's Weasley little informant and tells him to find Bill San Antonio and deliver him a message. Basically tell him that old Pretty Face is waiting for him back at the saloon in town if they want to settle this once and for all.
Tell him I don't like to be kept waiting.
So back at the hideout, every other remaining crony wants to get at Hutch since he knows where the gold is, and he's all they got left pretty much. So they all start trying to bust into the room he's locked in. So then we cut to the informant as he meets up with Bill and passes on Cat's message. Bill gets it and kills him for his troubles before riding into town to wrap this whole mess up. See how meaningless life is in this universe? It's like he didn't even finish his damn sentence. So Hutch then uses his super brute force, burly Bluto's strength to break the post he's tied to in half and uses it to clobber his torturer. Kapoink! So cut back to the saloon where Cat awaits and Bill shows up. And they clear the room together. B6 is a miss, Paco. You're not doing too good at this game, are you? It's alright, it takes learning, Ooh. You know what, I gotta go take a leak, Paco. I'll be right back. Don't you cheat now. Don't you look at my board. That's cheating, okay, Paco? Give Farmer Spaghetti a second. Bathrooms are back here, right? Damn, why do you make them so complicated? Shit! Ah, damn it!
Too many people. Yeah, too many people.
Yeah, I did that once at Applebee's and I was barred for life. Yeah, I didn't like it when you just, want to clear a room and kill everyone. And so Bill San Antonio goes into his final speech. Now he wants to make a deal with Cat and become partners. He even spills the beans on his whole operation and how he's been successfully robbing trains because he's been working with the president of the bank that insures the money, giving him the inside info he needs to steal the gold. An inside man who we never see, at least not in this movie. The deal he had between them was they would just split the gold and the insurance money. It was insured, so the guy at the bank's really making out. The Herald Bank is what it's called. They mention it one time in this movie. And apparently this partner of Bill's is also the same guy that came up with the whole plan that he should fake his death and disappear for a while. A real good businessman.
A real good businessman.
So cut back to Hutch, who goes on a killing spree at the hideout before escaping. Yeah, he doesn't let one fucker live. I mean, you can see why. They were trying to kill him too. Back to Cat and Bill, now playing cards again. Maybe they're finishing that final game. Bill still insists that they become partners, but Cat's not going for it. He clearly doesn't trust Bill at all and has no intention of joining forces with him. And I don't fucking blame him, really. The guy's a swindly dick. He just kills people randomly. So Cat makes a challenge to him. The only way you can make a deal with him is by playing with all the cards on the table. Meaning, it's a metaphor for the gold. The gold. So boom. We super jump cut then to the location where the gold is buried. Where we now find Bill and Cat. Bill standing right on top of the chest, laughing his ass off. Because, you know, he's got the gold under his feet now. He's happy. He thinks he's going to win this thing.
Do you know what I think, dead man?
Now, at this point, the guy doing the overdub for Cat Stevens has gone full-blown, backwoods Southern guy. He's so not Southern in real life, Terence Hill. That's why this is hilarious. They make him seem like such a different person here.
I think I'll offer you what you so kindly offered me a year ago.
Offer you what you so kindly offered me a year ago. Oh, shit. It's almost too much that it's laughable. So this is it. The final showdown between our hero, or anti-hero, Cat Stevens, and his mortal enemy, Bill San Antonio, to see who walks away alive with all the gold. So Cat gives Bill a similar deal to the one that he made with him a year ago, but instead of setting a shack on fire because they're outside, he lights a fuse that starts burning towards a big stockpile of explosives next to this big mountain behind him. Not really a mountain, like this rocky hill thing. And that's when Hutch decides to show up and join in the fun. Cat then claims the gold's not even in the chest anymore and that he's moved it. Hutch, with a gun on both of them, goes to the chest to verify this, and as the fuse still burns in the background towards this stockpile of explosives, Bill then pulls his last dirty trick and takes a shot at Hutch. Cat sees this and tosses his throwing knife at him. A perfect hit to his wrist knocks the gun a bit, but it still fires and hits Hutch, and he drops to the ground motionless.
That's your last dirty trick, dead man.
So Cat's determined to finish this showdown no matter what. So he lets Bill rearm himself. Fuse still burns. So the showdown is back on. Bill goes for his gun, but Cat's quicker, and he totally disables Bill by shooting him in both kneecaps and his other wrist. And makes him crawl for the fuse so he can save what's left of his pathetic little fucking life there, I guess. No chance for this guy, right? Cat uses this time to carry Hutch's heavy but still alive ass out of there before a desperate Bill uses his teeth to try to pull out the fuse. But it's way too late and it blows up anyway, along with half the Rocky Mountain there beside it. So Cat and Hutch escape with their lives. Hutch wakes up in the back of a wagon a little while later, right next to the gold from the robbery. And then we see the Cat's driving the wagon and has plans to take Hutch to the nearest doctor so he can get that bullet pulled out of him before they discuss what to do with the gold. Or, as Cat put it, we'll discuss it when you're able to hold a gun in your hand, or something like that.
We'll discuss it when you're strong enough to hold a gun. That's
when we get the one honest smile from Cat to show that he even has a sense of humor. That's an honest Terence Hill smile there. Yeah, there it is. And that's it. The wagon rides off as that epic score plays one last time. La 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 la. Wait for it. Wait for it. They always have to show every second of it. Boom, there it is, the end. Ba-da-da-da-da. And you're gonna play the whole music too. So, yeah. And that was pretty much the tale of this forgotten spaghetti western classic. God forgives, ... I don't. Exclamation point. Now, you don't see many movie titles with an exclamation point in the title. Okay? And personally, I like how this film was written. There's a lot of stuff that they wrote in this film that they eventually use in the sequel later on. Mostly the stuff about Bill's partner at this bank that he was working with the whole time. So they stay loyal to the story that was going on originally to start off the sequel. Because it takes off right where they left off in this movie. Now, as you can tell, this was a low-budget film and it didn't have too much for sets or exteriors, clearly. Everything was so abandoned looking. You never really see a real lively town at all. I mean, maybe a little bit at that funeral, but again, it was like for a second you might have saw a building and a couple of people, but again, nothing, not much. And these desert shots that are supposed to be the American West, that's actually Almeria, Spain. I mean, it's a nice looking country, but it's clearly not the United States. Now, as a spaghetti western fan, I see this particular movie as like your perfect grindhouse-y type spaghetti western. It's just great. It's like that perfect kind of like low budget, but still really entertaining, but you do gotta pay attention. And there are 2 more sequels, making it a full trilogy, and I enjoy this trilogy just as much as the Dollars trilogy. Even if no one else agrees with that, which I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who don't think that this trilogy is anywhere as good, but still, I definitely do. It's different. Like the universe they create here is so bleak. It's very contained, yet wide open. These wide shots of landscapes as the characters go from one dilapidated pueblo to another. Then once you're in an interior setting, it's close-up, so it's all these grimy characters in a dumpy looking room. Yet somehow it works. I love the feel of this world that the director creates with the very little he had. And with low budgets and limited sets, you need to have a good story that moves along somewhat, with characters that are interesting and actors that can pull it off. And what better Italian action duo is there besides Terence Hill and Bud Spencer, the actors who played Cat Stevens and Hutch Bessie? This movie was the first time these 2 actors were ever paired together in starring roles with each other. And after the local success of God Forgives I Don't, the studio was given a backing to make a sequel that would be produced and distributed by an American film company, Paramount Pictures. The sequel that directly follows the events of this film is called Ace High, and it came out in 1968, the very next year. And with that bigger budget, they were able to get a few bigger actors too, like Eli Wallach, Kevin McCarthy, bigger actors at that time. They're dead now, I know. The set production went up too. You could tell it had a much bigger feel. And that one was followed by a 3rd installment that came out in 1969 called Boot Hill, completing the trilogy. And Bud and Terence reprised their roles in all 3 films. And after that, they were officially a team and went on to make about 10 more films together. All slapstick, wacky comedies though. Not like these where they're playing it straight. Yet it worked. It worked for them and they were very successful with it. And I'm glad they were because these movies were hilarious to me. Yep, this trilogy is the only time that they ever played it straight. After that, nothing was serious. Everything was just wacky, slappy, slapping each other all the time, bonking each other on the head. And it was their one American actor, Frank Wolff, as Bill San Antonio. Now, Terence Hill and Bud Spencer were great, but for this movie, Frank Wolff really stole the show for me. And again, it helped that his voice matched a lot better. I think it probably was his real voice. He was American after all. He didn't really need to redub his lines. He had the accent already. And it's a good thing too, considering all the speeches his character had to give. It was an excellent performance, and man, if anybody can rock a pair of mutton chops, it's this guy. Frank Wolff also appeared in the Sergio Leone classic, Once Upon a Time in the West. In the very beginning of the movie, he gets killed. He's a character named Brett McBain. Frank Wolff also appeared in an episode of The Twilight Zone, A Passage for a Trumpet. However, he had to travel to Italy to become a star. He did this on the suggestion of director Roger Corman, whose films he had previously appeared in. Sadly, though, he suffered from depression and killed himself in 1971 at a Hilton Hotel in Rome, Italy. Yeah, depressing end. I wasn't expecting that. I read that on IMDb. That was only 4 years after this movie was made. Then I want to talk about the writer and director of this trilogy. Italian director Giuseppe Colizzi. I couldn't find a lot of information on this guy. He only wrote and directed 6 movies, 4 of them being Bud and Terence films. 3 of them were this trilogy, 1 was one of the comedies that they did. He died in 1978 at the age of 53. Not that old. It's too bad. I really enjoyed his films. So now, my final thoughts on God Forgives. I don't. Exclamation point! So with this movie featuring mostly a bunch of dudes, I was wondering, were Cat and Hutch gay or just buddies? I don't think they were gay. I think they just had a mutual respect for one another. And were good buddies. I mean, everyone was secretly in love with Cat Stevens in a way. From the one actual female in the film, to the main antagonist who was the most open about his attraction to Cat Stevens. From calling him pretty face like constantly, and that look he would always give him like, pretty face. What the fuck is that? Tell me there's no homosexual undertones in these fucking movies. And of course I'm fine with that. I mean, he is a beautiful man, as I've said. Casting him as pretty face is just good casting, if not perfect. And he's so serious in these films. It's the only time you ever get to see Terence Hill serious, I swear. It's seldom. I really like this film and I could not find one decent review on it. Most people in this country have never even seen it, or the ones that have found it to be boring and generic and could barely pay attention. I must see something they don't. I mean, I like the dark grittiness of spaghetti westerns. They look so much more filthy than the American westerns, where life has no value at all. I feel like it would look more like that in reality. It is a very macho, male-driven film, and the female characters are just hookers that get punched regularly in the face. They don't even care. None of the men in this film seemed interested or even attracted to women. Well, except that one guy. Yeah, right out a window for her, huh? Nor did any of them show any interest in any kind of normal life where they could just settle down. Well, again, except for Tom Tom.
He was a handsome man, Tom Tom. Generous man, too.
Rose, the hooker's boyfriend. All any of them seemed to like to do was fighting and killing each other over everyone and everything, and control and power over all of it. Mostly gold and wealth. People don't change much, I guess. And I think the script is clever enough to sort of set it up for a possible sequel, even though there's no way they could have known that would have happened. Anyway, that's it for now. You know, Cat and Hutch Bessie did have many more adventures. 2 to be exact, but that's another story. Adios for now, and I'll see you at the movies.
Too many people.
Alright, Paco, I'm back. Wait. What the fuck happened here? Everyone's fucking dead. Paco, no! Shit! Fuck! Paco! Found somebody to play Battleship with and they're all fucking dead. Great. I hate this town. Fuck this shit. Fuck it, we're on to the next town.
Now that you've seen the movie, you'll definitely want to own this limited time offer. The official Cat Stevens Accessories Kit. It comes complete with a gun, a handcrafted Cat Stevens throwing knife, and finally, your very own official Cat Stevens playing cards. A must-own for all spaghetti western fans. Survive the dark, violent grittiness of the spaghetti west the way Cat Stevens did, with the only 3 items you'll ever need to count among your effects.
Listen, pretty face. You're the first person in the world I ever told this to.
There's only one way I can go along with yours. Playing with the stakes on the table.
Pretty face.
Do you know what I think, dead man? I think I'll offer you what you so kindly offered me a year ago.
damn it. Fucking rip-off. Throwing a knife my ass. Fuck it. Good old-fashioned way. It's like Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's for you, Harrison Ford. You bitter old bastard, you.
The official Cat Stevens Accessories Kit. Products are going fast, so get your credit card and act now. Only $49.99. Buy it today or die penniless in a desert.